Welcome back to the Pig Trail Show. As always, we're joined by our Hog Hoops insider, Kevin McPherson, to talk about all things Arkansas basketball. We have a few things to chat about this week, Kevin, but let's start off with this. I know you were tweeting about it all this week, but the NBA Draft Combine with the hogs getting to go to that, four hogs getting to go to that, right? Four?
Yeah, I mean, there were so many hogs, and Eric Musselman was there in Chicago doing interviews, and I sprained my tweeting thumb. I'm recovering from that here on Sunday here at the end of the week, but I'm sure I'll have to get healed quickly. But yes, four Razorbacks from last year. Arkansas was tied for the most players in the draft combine. There were over 80 players when you looked at the 78 who were invited, and then you had 8 or so more from the G League combine from last weekend, a 2-day event. They invited some of the top performers there over to the main combine. So you had four hoop hogs from last season. That's again tied for the most with one other school. And so Arkansas's brand is really strong when you have an opportunity like this, because right now the NBA is front and center. When you look at the playoffs down to the conference finals, the NBA finals will be determined here in a little over a week. They'll start playing that. Then you have the draft coming up next month, and this what this combine was all about. But when we look at the Razorbacks, Courtney, everything went as I expected it would be in terms of what their participation levels were going to be. Anthony Black, had a great season at Arkansas, all SEC freshman. And here's a guy that when you look at in all SEC, but when you look at his week, he did exactly what he was supposed to do. You knew at 6'7" and athletic and strong that he needed to go through the measurables and agility testing, because he was going to, it was a no doubt that he was going to stand out relative to the other guards at his position, point guards in this combine. It's exactly what happened. His measurements were great. Some of his agility testing, I mean, his max vert was top 6 out of all of the players that tested for that. So these are things that didn't surprise me, but it just helps him stand out. I thought it was smart of him not to go through shooting drills or the 5-on-5 competition. In fact, the 30 plus players who were at the combine who did not go through the 5-on-5 later in the week are projected first round or a chance to move into the first round. So that's kind of the trend. That's going to change next year based on the recent collective bargaining agreement, where they're going to force everybody who wants to be drafted to get drafted. You got to participate if you're in the combine. So anyway, Anthony Black chose wisely, interviewing with teams. He's already met with multiple teams. Said top 10. A lot of mocks have him slotted 8 or 9. So those are teams like Washington Wizards, Utah Jazz. So he's already had meetings and stuff set up with those teams. Oklahoma City Thunder was another one. Nick Smith Jr. also a freshman last year at Arkansas. We know he was the first of these hogs to declare, but he's projected as a first rounder. He did slide. We know he was a top 3, top 5 projected pick at the beginning of the season in mocks. Now he's down in the average of mocks has him at the back end of the lottery, 13 to 14. But here's a guy that's, he's represented by Clutch Sports. They have 3 of their 4 players that they represent for this draft are projected first rounders. None of those players did any of the measurement, shooting drills, any of the 5-on-5. They just did interviews. The Clutch will have its pro day workout in Los Angeles this week. Nick Smith Jr. will go through that. But as far as the combine goes, it was strategic. It wasn't about Nick Smith opting out. It was what his agency does. It's their strategy. And if you think about it, you have nothing to gain by competing against guys in those scrimmages that are really second-round projections, and some of them are projected to go undrafted. You're expected to dominate. It doesn't necessarily move your needle up if you do, and if you don't perform well, it can hurt you. So I thought it was very strategic and smart on Nick Smith Jr.'s part to go the route he did. But the 2 standouts, in my opinion, as far as what they were able to do in scrimmage play, especially Jordan Walsh, his measurements and agility and shooting drill work were all good, checked a lot of boxes, especially the measurables and agility testing, Courtney, because relative to his position, that 3 and D wing is what he projects as. He was among the leaders in a lot of those categories. But then I thought he did a really good job. Some of it reminded me of what Jalen Williams did in his scrimmage work in the combine last year before going early second round, diving on the floor for loose balls, being a good passer in situations to set teammates up for easy scores. Didn't shoot the ball particularly well, but when you look at his per 36-minute numbers, which is kind of how you look at a player's statistical value projecting to the NBA. That's what they use per 36. Jordan in his two scrimmages averaged nearly a triple double, 13 and a half points,
Whoa.
11.7 rebounds, 9 assists, 1.8 steals. He only took three threes. He made one. So for a 3-and-D wing, I did see him pass up some open looks to drive. He did that at Arkansas. He's going to have to take that shot with confidence because he's not a shot creator off the drive. The defense is waiting on him. But these are things he can get better at. Now, he's got a decision to make. He's the one out of the four at this combine who's left the door open for a return. I've been saying for a long time, I think he probably stays in. I think the combine is going to help move the needle for him in terms of draftability. But I still think he's, a mid-second rounder, maybe early second rounder at best. All it takes is one team to fall in love and pick you late first round. But just kind of looking at it, I'm thinking, mid-second round, maybe early right now. He's still can work out with teams individually, and the other things can help him. But so that's the range where you can get those guaranteed contracts. So that's what Jalen Williams got last year. Daniel Gafford 3 years ago. Isaiah Joe in between there. So this is a place where he could go and probably get himself guaranteed money and get his pro start. But if he says, no, I'm first round or bust, or I want to be, I expect more. If it comes to something like that, he could return. But I do think he'll probably stay in the draft. Courtney, Ricky Council the fourth, did some good things in his competitive play in the two scrimmages. His efficiency shooting was fine. It wasn't really volume. He didn't take threes. He didn't do any of the 3-point shooting drills. It's not his strength. The shooting drills he did do at the combine, he didn't do well in the pack. He was sort of near the bottom of the pack, especially relative to his position, which is going to be, they've got him listed as a small forward wing. I think that's interesting. But at 6'6",
Okay.
he's strong, he's athletic, and he showed really good on-ball defense at times, which was a big hit and miss for him last season at Arkansas and really in his college career through 3 seasons, 2 years at Wichita State. But I thought there was some consistency in some of the way that he defended on the ball, getting deflections, getting steals, and walling off drives and just being a force. And he should be. He's very athletic and he's strong and he's got that good frame. So I thought Ricky Council in some ways showed me some stuff that might help him, because when you're not a great shooter, you're going to have to do it on the other end in other ways. His rebounding, it was 3 rebounds in 2 scrimmages. That needs to pick up. So he's going to, I think when he works out with teams moving forward, interview process, and he's staying in the draft, whether he's drafted or not. But he's been in most mocks as an early to mid-second round. I think we might see that slide a little bit, but I think he can still help himself moving forward.
Yeah, you mentioned Jordan Walsh. We're going to go back to him in just a second.
Yeah.
I do want to mention, I loved Anthony Black and how good he was with the media for the combine, because he was making headlines everywhere, it looked like, left and right on Twitter, with going, hey, who have you been talking to? Well, let me just pull out my phone and show you exactly who I've been chatting with. He was just awesome. I loved seeing that. And that, gives a lot of credit to Arkansas there for getting them media ready and media trained. You got to love that. Let's go back to Jordan Walsh, though. You mentioned he still has to make a decision. He has left the door open. So has Devo Davis, who didn't participate in the combine. The draft, that deadline to make that decision coming up May 31st. So what do you think about, obviously you say Jordan Walsh probably going to stay in, but what do you think about Devo Davis? I know recently on the show you said he's probably coming back.
I think he is. I think, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I fully believe he's coming back. I think
Awesome.
it would take something major to happen in the next few days with that deadline approaching to alter that. So I believe Devo Davis will be a Razorback for a 4th year. Man, that's nosebleed rarefied air under Eric
Love
Musselman
that.
anywhere. You a 4-year guy playing for Musselman the whole time. We'll see. I think we're going to find out exactly what that looks like. And Devo Davis has been one of the Arkansas greats when you wrap it all together, especially postseason play. But he didn't get invited to the G League Elite Camp leading into the combine, so didn't get invites to those. But keep an eye on Devo Davis over this next week. I think we're going to find out he's getting a nice opportunity to showcase something for a pro team before that deadline comes. And that's good for him because it's a good experience as he goes through this process. Because at some point he is going to transition to trying to either get drafted or if not, play professionally somewhere. And so you want some of these experiences. I think he's going to get one coming up fairly soon. And then by that May 31st deadline, I think we'll probably learn that Devo Davis is coming back. Arkansas has two openings now, by the way.
Yeah.
And so, that obviously a Jordan Walsh could slide right back in. There's some other things going on. We know we're waiting on Ron Holland to get his. We talked about it last week.
We're
We're going to try
still
to say it
waiting.
correctly today. NLI release. Get his national letter of intent release from Texas, because he can't really do much in terms of moving on until that happens, unless it's professionally. And I think he would have already done that if that was his main consideration. So I think Arkansas is in great shape there. I've said forever that I love their chances. And we're approaching a month now since he requested that release, and that's about the window that Texas has of 30 days
Yeah, we're still waiting. Still
to set a
waiting.
marker there to give him that look. If he doesn't, he has to petition the NCAA, and you'd hope that would go quickly.
Yeah.
So Arkansas could still be with a spot or something, even if they fill up, they would make room and find a way for a guy like Ron Holland if it takes a while. Or Grant Nelson, the North Dakota State big man, versatile
Yeah.
big man transfer, who was not only in the combine, but also put himself in the portal right before the combine. I think Arkansas is going to have a shot at him if he decides to come back to college. That May 31st deadline looms large as far as making guys pick one, pro or college. And it doesn't mean everything's going to be settled for Arkansas by then. It may take a little longer on a couple of guys going through their processes. So we could see some, with two openings now, if Arkansas tries to add three, that means something somewhere, some piece that is either returning or was added either out of the portal back in April or whatever, something might have to give there. So it's all going to be very interesting, Courtney, as we move forward, not only to the end of the month, but possibly further than that. And look, next weekend is when players for the 23-24 roster start moving on to campus.
Yeah.
That fall, after Memorial Day, summer school session 1 starts. They go through their physicals. They can start doing that limited practice stuff 4 hours a week through, at Arkansas very shortly after that. So a lot of things happening all at once for Arkansas right now. This is probably the latest we've gone with as many as 2 roster spots still unsettled at this juncture.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a big show next week. I can just feel it on the rise. And next week or the week after, we're going to be talking about a whole lot. We're going to be talking about so much. Kevin, before we let you go, I do want to talk about recruiting really quickly with you, because I saw you actually put an article out on hogville.net about this, about 7 scholarships that Arkansas has offered to 2025 and 2026 recruits. Can you talk about that?
I can if my memory is going to work for me today.
7 is a lot.
Tweeting thumb, but I think I can roll down this. Let's start with 2026, because when I look in state and I look at Jashawn JJ Andrews, big, strong, 6'5" athletic guard out of Little Rock Christian, helped the Warriors as a freshman starter to the 4A state title. But ESPN ranks him the number 8 player in the country in the class of 2026. He's a 5-star. He's a stud. He already had a few high major offers, Arkansas and Eric Musselman. I interviewed him right after he talked to us on Friday. I was juggling that in a radio segment and going to a basketball event and trying to get an article out, but I talked to JJ. He was excited about it. He looks forward to building that relationship with Musselman. His dad, Sean Andrews, was an All-American offensive lineman at Arkansas back in the day, and a Pro Bowler in the NFL with the Philadelphia Eagles. Had a nice college and pro career, obviously, but that's his son. So there's big time athletic genes but a different sport, obviously football to basketball. But JJ checks a lot of boxes. If you saw this young man, he's not only a really good player and a great young man, but just physically and athletically, you might assume he's in his a freshman in college and not high school. That's how well put together he is, and he plays the right way. Jacob Lanier, a 6'6" guard out of Maumelle, also the Little Rock area. Both of these young men, by the way, are having great spring so far in the Nike E15 circuit, Nike EYBL. But Jacob Lanier out of Maumelle just really putting up big numbers on that circuit, and he was a starter as a freshman at Maumelle last year. But here's a combo guard that can be your lead guard. He can, JJ Andrews, the wing, off guard. Jacob can play all 3 positions. And again, 6'6", I mentioned Andrews, 6'5". You're talking those Eric Musselman covets those big guards who are versatile defensively, can guard multiple positions and bring different things to the table on the other end of the floor. But I love Jacob Lanier's game because he can pick and choose. He can get all the way to the rim. He can shoot the three ball. He has multiple games of multiple three makes, and then he's a facilitator as well. And he's got nice length and athleticism, as does Andrew. So you've got two of the top players in the country in 2026 right here in the 501. Let's
Love
keep
it.
going down the list. I've got 2 out of 7. You got all day?
All
All right,
right,
let's
keep going. Keep going. Let's go.
all right, 2026, Jalen Montanati, 6'7" small forward wing out of Owasso, Oklahoma. His dad's a coach. He's a 5-star, number 13, according to ESPN, in that class of 2026. 6'7", another player on the perimeter with size and length and multiple position type guy. So it checks that box once again for what Eric Melsman likes. He got an offer. Now we've got 4 from class of 2025, 2 from Arkansas. So I'm going to hit those really quickly.
Okay.
Isaiah Seeley, he's in your backyard. We talked about him a couple of weeks
Yes.
ago. We worked that in from Springdale. ESPN ranks him the number 28 player in the country, 4-star, knocking on the door in 2025 for 5-star if you get up in that top 20 or 25 or so. But another big perimeter player, 6'5", 6'6", can play the 1, 2, and 3. Again, versatile guy. I've been seeing most of these kids play for over a year now, even though they're still young,
Yeah.
going back to 8th grade. And Isaiah is a player that has that same kind of versatility, can play on the ball. I mentioned multiple positions, but I like his floor IQ, his creativity, his court awareness. And then when you're a big guard, it's sometimes you get used to just playing bully ball, but he actually incorporates skill in his game. I really like it. He's
Love
also
that.
playing on the Nike circuit, Nike E16 with Mocan Elite out of Missouri. But Isaiah Seeley was the first name I mentioned in 2025. We've got 3 more to go. Jay Sean Hayes out of Whitehall, just down here in the kind of in the central Arkansas
Yeah.
area, you could say, between Little Rock and Pine Bluff. But another big guard, 6'5", 6'6", had multiple games last year at Whitehall, scoring 40 or more points. He was at Arkansas's elite camp last year. He's already got some high major offers, including Ole Miss, where his dad and his high school coach Josh Hayes played at in college.
Oh,
And then
okay.
we've got a couple more guys. Cam Ward, who took an unofficial visit to Arkansas for a game last year, class of 2025, 6'7", small forward wing out of Largo, Maryland, a national top 50 guy. But he told me, not only he talked to me about the offer, but he also said that he's going to come back for a visit in the fall. And then last but not least, Will Riley, a 6'7" small forward wing. Here's a young man out of Malvern, Pennsylvania, another versatile player. Rivals has him ranked 25th in the country. ESPN has him ranked as a 4-star. So those are the 7 players. If you look at it, 6'5" to 6'7",
Wow.
and it's just right in the wheelhouse of all the guys we've seen under Eric Musselman who have come in and had success. Mason Jones, Isaiah Joe, Moses Moody, Stanley Moody, Adise Tony, Jalen Tate, Anthony Black, Jordan Walsh, Nick Smith Jr. I'm rolling through all the names of guys that fit that size mode. Now, they're not all the same kind of player, other than the fact that they can bring versatility. And all these young men, from what I've seen, some in person, some watching it online, very high basketball IQ. So great choice of offers for Eric Melsman and his staff as they knocked them out 1 through 7 on Friday.
I love that. I'm very impressed you were able to do 1 through 7 like that. That was awesome. And on a time crunch.
Well, I talk a lot.
Hey,
I guess I think what I have to say is important. It
yeah,
may not.
you
But I never want to shortchange the players and what they're doing. Man, I
no.
love basketball, but I'm just talking about it. They're out there earning the talk,
Yeah.
and then I feel like I owe it to them. So thank you for letting me have the
Of
platform.
course. Of course. We always appreciate you having you on the show, Kevin, and we'll have much more Pig Trail coming up after the break. Stay with us.